Hi. Benghazi, the second largest ambassador of Tripoli, the city in Libya, the capital of Cyrenaica. At the time of existence of the Kingdom of Libya was one of two capital cities. Not far from Benghazi, Idris I's residence was located. Gaddafi deprived of Benghazi of capital functions. On February 15, 2011 in Benghazi, the protest actions which served as the beginning of civil war began. From the middle of 2017 the city is controlled by forces of East Government of Libya and al-Natan. Haftar. Benghazi is located in the historic area of North Africa, Cyrenaica. The colony Hesperides. Just Hesperida was the first city in the territory of modern Benghazi, based by Greeks about 525 BB of Hesperida were one of the cities of Pentapolis, 5 main towns of Cyrenaica. Hesperida for the first time mentioned by Herodotus in the description of a revolt in Bark and the Persian expedition to Cyrenaica. Results of many archaeological researches indicate independence or autonomy of the city of Cyrenaica per Afast. For example, the oldest coins found in the city were other than Kyrenaiski the same period. Also the city had authorities and similarity of the constitution. The city was taken more than once in a siege as it was located on border of hostile Libyan tribes. One of such sieges is mentioned by the ancient Greek historian Thucydides in 414 BB. Then Hesperida was saved by the Spartan military leader Gylipp forced to suspend a campaign of the fleet to Sicily because of strong wind gusts. The death of the last Tsar Kyrene Kesselaya of forerunning here in hope for rescue also is connected with the city. Cyrenaica was a part of the empire of Alexander of Macedon, and then in the kingdom of Ptolemyev. After Ptolemaeus' marriage by 3 with Berenike II, in the middle of the 3rd century BB, many Kyrenaiski cities were renamed, and Hesperida began to be called as Berenik. According to Appian Ptolemaeus' will, Cyrenaica became the Roman province in the 96th year BB. In the 20th years BB the city was included in structure of the senatorial province of Crete and Cyrenaica. On administrative reform of Diocletian, Cyrenaica was divided into 2 parts, the Lower Cyrenaica and the Top Cyrenaica. Under the power of Rima Berenike prospered, and after the 3rd century AD became the center of Cyrenaica at all. In 431 all Libya, including Cyrenaica, was conquered by Vandals and suffered huge damage. In the 6th century Berenike for some time got under the power of Byzantium. By order of Justinian I, in the city walls and public baths were reconstructed. Later, at the Emperor Mauritius, Cyrenaica was included in structure of the Egyptian province. The general control over the region was very weak, and constant Berber revolts turned once prospering territory into the place forgotten by all at all. Formation of Islam. Islam went across North Africa without due resistance. The Roman influence on the region, except for Berenike, was insignificant. Byzantium had practically no support here. According to the Alexandria Contract 642 years, conquest of Egypt by Arabs was ended by a victory. On September 17, 642 years Alexandria, and at the beginning of 643 years, without resistance, and Cyrenaica fell. By then Baranite was already the small settlement in the middle of majestic ruins. At Arabs the city long time was called as Barnik. In the 1200 years the settlement began to play an important role in the growing trade between the Genoa merchants and tribes from internal areas. In 1450 the Arab merchants from Misrata built up the strong city between ruins and named it Benghazi, in honor of the Arab commander Sidi Benghazi. In translation from Arab the new name meant Sun Pobadi, or Sun Pobaditalia. According to other version, the city received the modern name only in the 16th century on behalf of Muslim saint Merabat Benghazi, or Bin Rasi, which grave is located near Benghazi. In 1578 Turks captured Benghazi and ran the city from Tripoli. In 1711-1835 the city consisted under the power of Pashas of Karamanli's dynasty, and in 1835-1911 was under direct control of the Ottoman Empire. At the time Benghazi was the poorest city in the Ottoman Empire. In him there were no paved roads, telegraph, and the bay so got littered with seed deposits that the ships couldn't enter it. In coastal waters the Greek and Italian hunters of sea sponges worked. In 1858 and in 1874 Benghazi was devastated by epidemic of bubonic plague. In 1911 Benghazi was captured by Italians, and in 1912 created colony the Italian Cyrenaica. The local population of Cyrenaica under Omar Muta's leadership tried to organize guerrilla war against Italians, however got beaten. Massachusetts' repressions against disloyal tribes became the reply of the Italian authorities. After the end of revolts in the early 30s, an attempt to assimilate local population peacefully was made. By the end of the 1930th years a little more than 20,000 Italians lived in Benghazi that made 35% of all population of the city. During rule of Mussolini of 125,000 Libyans appeared in concentration camps from which dead there were about 2/3. On February 6, 1941, during the Operation Compass, parts of the 6th Infantry Australian Division entered Benghazi. On April 4 the same year the city was occupied by troops of the Axis again. Benghazi passed from hand to hand still more than once. Strongly I suffered from the British bombings. Final occupation of the city happened on November 20, 1942, after defeat of the African building of Wehrmacht during the Second Battle at El Alameini. Benghazi became the center of the British military authorities in Libya. From 1949 to 1951 Benghazi was the capital of the Emirate of Cyrenaica. In December 1951 the Kingdom Libya with the capitals in Benghazi and Tripoli was formed of Cyrenaica, Tripolitania and Fazan. On December 24, 1951 in Benghazi independence of Libya was declared. In August 1960 the King Idris I erected Omar Muta's mausoleum in Benghazi. After a military coup of 1969 of Benghazi lost the capital status, and all main public institutions were moved to Tripoli. On April 15, 1986 the city transferred bombing of the United States Air Force. Charge of the USA of the Libyan authorities of support of the international terrorism, including of bombing in the Berlin disco, Lobo. The event before became 10 days the reason. In September 1995 there was a series of collisions between Islamic fanatics and police. Thousands of people were arrested. In the late 90s in Children's Hospital of Benghazi more than 400 patients were infected with an immunodeficiency virus. Guilty persons made the Bulgarian nurses and the Palestinian doctor who were arrested and sentenced to death. However, before didn't reach, and in 2007 nurses were pardoned and returned to Bulgaria. Arab Civil War. In February 2011 in Benghazi rough protests which eventually led to the beginning of civil war flashed. Protesters went under the flag of the Kingdom of Libya, some of them bore also Idris I images. By various calculations in February 2011 died from several tens to 200 protesters. After escape of the mayor Huda bin Amara from Benghazi in Tripoli, locals organized administrative committee from the different people respected in the city. From February 26 to August 26 in Benghazi there was a temporary headquarters of Transitional National Council. On May 19, 2012 in Benghazi there took place free municipal elections, the first since 1960. On September 11, 2012 in Benghazi the American diplomatic mission was attacked by a group of fighters of Ansar al-Sharia, were as a result killed. Ambassador of the USA in Libya Christopher Stevens, Information Manager Sean Smith and 2 security service specialists of embassy. 10 people were wounded. From the beginning of the Second Libyan Civil War in 2014 Benghazi became a subject of heavy fighting between forces by the Libyan National Army, together with the House of Representatives, and Islamic forces of Council of Shura Benghazi. Since the end of 2016 the most part of the city center was exposed to strong bombing and was seriously damaged during war. Fighters of the Wilayat of Barqa fled Benghazi at the beginning of January 2017, and the General Khalifa Haftar declared the city cleared of Islamists of Council of Shura on July 5, 2017. Despite it, the last area controlled by fighters was occupied with army in December 2017. Benghazi is one of 22 Shabiak municipalities of Libya. Consists of 32 primary national congresses. The geographical area in which there is Benghazi is called Cyrenaica. Cyrenaica is surrounded with the desert from 3 parties, therefore in ancient times communication with other civilization lay through the north, through the Mediterranean Sea where there were Crete and Greece, in only 400 km. Benghazi is surrounded with the semi-desert and the steppe. The region of Jebel Akhdar, the Green Mountain, is to the north from Benghazi. Here vegetation and climate more Mediterranean than in desert areas in the south. In the west Jebel Akhdar occupies the most part the fertile plain of Almars. Further the second Jebel Akhdar level with heights from 500 to 875 m above sea level goes east. The slopes of mountains cut by gorges cover the woods. The average annual amount of precipitation, especially in Cyrene, can reach 500 m. The soil in Benghazi of dense red color, very clay. To the north, under abrupt rocks of the plateau, the narrow strip of the Mediterranean agricultural grounds lies. There grow up olives and other Mediterranean fruit and vegetables. To the south of the wooden gardens give way to thickets of a juniper, semi-desertic bush. There are small regions of a winter pasture of the cattle. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.